Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome once again to the Storyteller's Corner. I'm your host, Joshua T. Calkins-Truberty, also known as Byron of Sidious. Today, we're going to continue with the presentation of Captured, a Metroid fanfiction written and presented by yours truly. We pick up where we last left off with Part 11. The containment wall blew apart in a hellstorm of smoke and flying metal and flames, leaving at least one member of the wrecking crew shrieking in agony as a piece of shrapnel lodged in her leg, dropping her just out of Samus's sight beyond the smoking ruin of the wall. She stepped out into the corridor and immediately began ducking, dodging, and rolling aside from the bolts of energy being fired by the internal defense turrets ahead of her. Two twin cannon devices, having popped out of the floor between herself and another trio of soldiers, rhythmically shot at her, their targeting not only slowed by the smoke, but by their own age and disuse. Digger had maintained them, once upon a time, but when Wrench took over the spot of chief mechanic on board, she didn't see any reason to keep them in top working order. Samus didn't know this, but if she had, she might have appreciated the queer humor in the situation. She returned fire at the automated weapons, using the standard shot from her arm cannon to wreck the first one, then the other in less than 7 seconds. Opting for temporary restraint, she twitched her right pinky finger, and the end of the cannon expanded into a dish-like shape. She took careful aim, then fired a wide cone of concentric electric blue rings of energy at the trio of armed men, still firing on her with their useless old firearms, their bullets pinging harmlessly off of her armor suit. The rings struck each man and dropped them, unconscious but otherwise unharmed. Samus casually approached her downed foes and took up their weapons, easily crushing them with the augmented strength of her left hand. Dropping the clumps of metal beside her would-be captors, she pressed on toward the nearest lift. Another set of auto turrets popped open, one on the floor and two on the ceiling, and she once more was forced to duck, dodge, and weave. A couple of their blaster bolts struck home, doing minimal damage to her kinetic shielding, and none at all to the actual integrity of her armor, according to the readouts on her HUD. Still, she decided to play it up for anyone watching, say, from the bridge, letting herself be pushed and thrown by the shots that landed. She mimed the damage for half a minute before unloading on the defenses with her standard cannon again, moving more slowly towards the lift, her left hand clutching at her abdomen. Let them think what they want, she thought. Deception is just another weapon in the hunter's arsenal. "She's hurt, Rivet," Molly said over the comm link as the Mosow rode the lift up to the 4th deck. "She's only about 20 yards from the lift on the left when you come out, so be ready to open fire on her when you get there. Don't take any unnecessary risks," she cautioned. "Understood," he replied, holding his ion blaster tightly. His plan was simple, really. Disable the armor with a couple of shots, then go in for the kill. He was no longer interested in salvaging this operation, thankful that Molly had seen it the same way, finally. Keeping Samus Aran alive had been a mistake, one they could ill afford to make again. As soon as the lift door opened, he dove out, whipping his weapon up and to the left, firing on the yellow and crimson-suited bounty hunter. The shot landed clean, pushing Aran back, bluish energy pulsing around her suit. She went down to one knee, but was quickly getting back up as 3 more defense turrets popped up between her and Rivet. He took aim and fired again, but the bounty hunter snap-rolled to her own left, avoiding his shot, but putting herself directly in the line of the turret's fire. 3 blasts struck true from the turrets, knocking her reeling backwards. Aran pulled something into her hand as she stood back up, and tossed it toward Rivet, who tumbled backwards to avoid what he assumed was a grenade of some kind. Thick, cloying gray smoke began to drift up from the ball, obscuring his vision. Rivet let out a barking laugh. "You think that's gonna help you, Aran?" he mocked as his view of the bounty hunter was obscured by the cloud. "These turrets don't need to see you to hit you." He backed slowly away, carefully stepping over the 2 units jutting up out of the floor. "I'm aware of that," she said, her voice coming from not far into the obscuring smoke. Rivet felt his heart leap up into his throat, just barely able to discern movement within only a few feet of the turrets and himself. "In fact, I'm counting on it." There issued then from the smoke a kind of hum, and the curved edge of some kind of bluish bubble pushed just beyond the near edge of the field of smoke. "What the hell?" Rivet asked quietly, bringing his weapon up in the general direction of the bubble's surface. "Reflector shield," Samus said, and the defense turrets fired on her at maximum output, their lethal beams ricocheting right back, 2 of them punching through Rivet's armor, chest and stomach. He tried to gasp, but there was empty space now only where one of his lungs had been, and the towering Masao warrior heard the turrets crackle as they were ripped physically from their moorings, tossed past him as he landed on his back, unable to gather any air into his body. His eyes seemed to be playing tricks on him, as his vision became overcome with a watery film, the pain in his gut complaining that all manner of things was wrong here. The armored bounty hunter leaned down over him then, her helmet removed, half-lidded, dispassionate glare filling his view. "You never would have accepted surrender," she observed quietly. "You are still a warrior, Malkalak. I knew this before I met you." "Then," he managed, still more pain replacing the air that should have been sustaining him. "I have given you an honorable death, Malkalak. To die in combat is noble. The empire you served is long dead, but your people's ways are not," she said, putting her helmet back into position. "Go well into the darkness, warrior." And so Rivet let go, allowing the darkness to claim him. Thus concludes Captured, Part 11. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. I ask that you take care of yourselves, and as always, keep reading.